On show 574, a slew of new electric TV ads driving a 2,000 horsepower EV into a wall, and motorhomes. Well, good morning, good afternoon, or good evening, wherever you're listening around the world. Welcome to EV News Daily Weekend Edition, Sunday 8th of September today. My name is Martyn Lee, and I go through every EV story that I can find to save you time, so you don't have to spend all day doing what I do. And at the end of the show, bringing you question of the week answers as well, and setting you a brand new question. Thank you as always to myev.com. They support this show, and they're busy in the US building a marketplace to help buyers and sellers connect with each other, learning about EVs along the way, helping dealers learn more about EVs. So much needs to be done in this space. Of course, we would all love to buy a brand new EV, but used ones, second-hand ones are going to be where the real action happens. And if you're in the USA, check out myev.com. A little note from something that I saw on Twitter, by the way, from somebody who I follow, Morton, who updates constantly on the movement of Teslas around the world on ships. The Glovis Cosmos, which I know is a strange set of words to say if you're not up to date with what I'm talking about. Glovis Cosmos is the name of a boat, a ship, I should say, by the way. Glovis Cosmos has entered Zeebrugge port. That is the port in Belgium, carrying a fresh load of Model 3s for Europe, most certainly right-hand drives for the UK, and maybe even Ireland. Hat tip to Doc NL. And yes, the Ireland issue is something that I hadn't realised, because I just presumed that all the right-hand drive models markets around the world were now being serviced with Tesla Model 3s. One of my Irish listeners emailed me in the week to say, not so, we are still waiting. That was following the news of Australia getting their right-hand drive models, and I speculated surely that was the last market to finally get theirs. So if you are waiting patiently for your Model 3 right-hand drive version, wherever you are in the world, I hope you get yours soon, and thank you very much for contacting the show, which, incidentally, by the way, I know that I'm probably the thing that I need to be better at is getting back to everyone that emails, tweets, Facebooks, leaves a comment on YouTube and sometimes LinkedIn, and it's just remembering to every day go to all those places and respond to every question. I'm sorry if I haven't done that this week, another busy week this week, but I try to spend the weekends catching up, and occasionally, where I do have 5 minutes spare, just relaxing, watching a bit of TV. Watched the football yesterday, the England game on TV, and there was a VW ad during the half-time of the football. You know, maybe you call this soccer where you're listening, but the real name is football. I joke, of course. And this TV ad from VW came on. I won't play you the whole thing, but I'll read you the script for it, actually. There's a female voiceover, and it says, "This is for all of us, the millions. It's time for a power shift. It's time for electric cars for the people. Cars that learn from you. Cars that go the distance. Because by harnessing power for the many, we can change the world. ID, Volkswagen, just electric." That's the script of the TV ad. Then after that came this one from Hyundai.
Progress is knowing that your car's charged simply by looking at your phone. The new Ioniq Electric from Hyundai next awaits.
Then I saw an advert for Ford, which was about a minute and a half long, and that was all about their electric vehicles. And some of the script in that said, "An electric vehicle has amazing acceleration. People instantly feel the difference between a normal vehicle and an electric vehicle. A battery electric vehicle can totally deliver the excitement on the road." So again, I won't play you the full audio of that, but once again, mainstream car manufacturers spending a lot of money on TV ads, and of course, as many people may well be thinking by now, at this stage of the podcast, something that Tesla don't do, have never done, not buying traditional TV advertising. Of course, they do plenty that gets the equivalent or at least recognition and them noticed in the market, but buying traditional TV ads, taking out newspaper and magazine pages is not something that Tesla have done, and I don't see them doing it anytime soon in the future. Well, after the bold unveiling of the final version of the Porsche Taycan this week, the German manufacturer announced the start of production of the first customer car. It will be built tomorrow, 9th of September. On Monday morning, the new factory will kick in and that first customer car will be made. The all-new electric flagship for Porsche is being made at a new production facility within their Zuffenhausen site, under construction for the last 4 years, says Inside EVs. Not yet known how high the production volume might be. Initially, they said 20,000. That was revised up to 40,000, and the number might also include the derivatives of the Taycan. Sales of Porsche last year in the US was 256,000 cars. With the Taycan included, could that be 300,000 cars? in a year. And also, a final point on that, I think I've just been standing back from the conversations on Twitter in the last couple of days because I took a lot of criticism by reporting on the Porsche earlier this week from the hardcore 1% Tesla fans that didn't appreciate me doing that. And I think I've come to the conclusion that for the 1% who were sending me messages or calling me out on Twitter saying, oh, Porsche have paid you to advertise it, they just don't understand it. They don't understand why a Porsche buyer would spend $150,000 on a Panamera or a Panamera Turbo, one of their ICE cars, and Porsche's electric car is designed to appeal to that person. I don't think a single person who is considering buying a Tesla has seen the Taycan and gone, oh, I'll buy that instead. Like maybe one or two people, you know what I mean? But it's like, I think that those people are probably just ignorant of the Porsche marketplace because they can't comprehend having $150,000 in the bank and being like, yeah, I'm going to buy a car. And maybe it'll be a Porsche, Ferrari, Lamborghini, a supercar. And so I think Porsche have built an electric car for those people, not for the majority of people who would then buy a mainstream car like a Tesla. And then there's so many comments online criticising Porsche, saying that they are going to make fewer cars than Tesla this year. Tesla's going to make more Model 3s than them. And it's really weird. It's like you don't see those arguments online saying they're going to make more Ford F-150 trucks than they are Lamborghini or McLaren supercars. McLaren are crazy because they're so clearly different cars. And a Model 3 and a Taycan is clearly a different car. I think where people get confused is they both have batteries in and they can't get past the fact that there's so few EVs out there at the moment that when a new one comes to market, they can't help but compare them. But you shouldn't. So I've stepped back from those conversations this week and I've just let them carry on and they'll burn themselves out. Talking of Porsche, by the way, and actually another supercar company, Porsche and Rimac Automobili have strengthened their partnership with high-performance EVs. The German manufacturer have upped their stake in Rimac from 10 to 15 point something percent, 15.5%. We assume that Rimac has got some value to add to Porsche, helping them make some quick progress. Porsche is convinced, so much so they've increased their stake in Rimac, according to Inside EVs. Besides working with multiple other manufacturers, Rimac is busy working on their own car, the C_2, the electric hypercar entering the market in 2020. And again, I saw so many people online saying, oh, right, yeah, Porsche haven't really built their own supercar. Basically, strip away the Taycan and it's a Rimac. And it's really interesting to see that because people go on social media and are so sure of themselves and will set the record straight and tell the world they know what they're talking about. The Porsche has been in development for 4 years, and even Porsche's initial investment in Rimac is recent. So perhaps Rimac were called in and they did some fettling, some finessing, maybe some algorithm stuff or some software, maybe even inputting on where they were with the Rimac 1 on things like balance and setup and things like that. But it's been a funny old week this week. Martyn Rimac, I'm not sure I'm saying his surname correctly, but it's how everyone says the company name. But anyway, Martyn said this, and I quote, "It was one of the most important milestones in our history to win Porsche as a partner. The fact that Porsche is now increasing its stake is the best confirmation of our cooperation and the basis for an even closer relationship. We're just at the beginning of our partnership, and yet our high expectations have already been met. We have many ideas we want to action together in the future. The key is to create a win-win situation for both partners and to add value to customers by developing exciting electrified models," end quote. I'll pop a link to Inside EVs in the show notes if you want to read more. Well, talking of Rimac, the C2 is the 2,000 horsepower car that was unveiled last year at the Geneva Motor Show, and it's becoming a production model. The Croatian automaker put out a short video this week that gives a behind-the-scenes look at the ongoing process of homologating the car. And this was somewhat of a new process for me to get my head around. I knew the basics of homologation, but Autoblog posted the video. Let's take a listen.
For a car manufacturer to show every details of development and validation crash tests, real footage and simulations, this is unheard of.
What I did wrong? What went wrong? Mate is losing money. I'm losing my job about this.
Global homologation is a tremendous task for a small car manufacturer. The fact that Rimac decided to follow this path for a full-fledged global homologation for C2 speaks for itself.
Well, Autoblog says that Rimac is putting itself through the trouble of homologation because it wants the C2 to be street legal in every major market around the world. The alternative, says Autoblog, would be to make the car a track-only model. In the US, you could take advantage of a show or display regulation and drive it on public roads a handful of times a year, but at least the firm doesn't have to worry about emissions regulations around the world, and those standards do change country to country. The C2 is fitted with pure electric power, 4 electric motors, 120 kilowatt-hour battery, under 2,000 horsepower by a smidge, 1,700 pound-feet of torque, 404 miles, 0 to 60 in 1.8 seconds, and a top speed of 258 miles an hour. Autoblog is linked through in the show notes if you want to read more. From a supercar, from a hypercar even, to the kind of vehicle you would take away for the weekend or a week on your holiday if you are taking out a motorhome, the Globe Van. The Globe Van e-hybrid is from Deleuthe's, and they are presenting for the first time at the Caravan Salon in Dusseldorf their first production-ready e-motorhome. The basis is the Globe Van, and they've built the e-hybrid version with a Ford Transit, and the axles are driven by electric power. It's a range extender, in other words. According to Caravan Gossip, yes, I have been reading the Caravan Gossip website, I do this for you. The rechargeable battery installed in the vehicle gives 50 kilometres of pure electric range, but then the REX will kick in. It's a 1-litre EcoBoost petrol engine, which serves, as all range extenders do, as a generator for charging the battery. That combination means that it's technically an EV, even though you are burning fossils, and it has got a piston engine inside it. It means you can drive it in cities using just electricity, though, if you activate EV mode, and I'm going to link through in the show notes if you want to read more. Well, news from Tesla adding a new parts page to their online presence today, in a move that hints at more direct sales of parts for your car to customers around the world. The new shop is stripped down as it stands today, with a few options for floor mats and key cards for the Model 3, but this bodes well, says Kyle Field for Clean Technica. He says that making parts available directly to customers over the internet replicates the parts supply model that the automotive industry has used for years. But this is the key thing. It eliminates the middleman. So you can give your customers and body shops the best prices from Tesla, original OEM parts. These are the best of the best. These aren't factor parts that are produced by someone else to a not quite the same specification. No markups, because Tesla are selling it direct. Tesla get all the profits, and they're doing it at retail pricing, and they get full control over the pricing as well. And anyone who's had to fix a Tesla, and I'm looking at you, Rich Rebuilds, with your YouTube channel, will be delighted if this online parts store is indeed expanded, so you can buy parts direct from Tesla, have someone do the work, you could do the work, I'm sure there's some warranty issues involved in there. It's an interesting step as Tesla moves from a niche automaker to a big global player. This was just another step they had to make as they went from selling thousands of cars to hundreds of thousands of cars. Well, Bosch and CATL, Contemporary Amperex Technology Limited, have concluded a long-term cooperation, a strategic partnership, an agreement under which they will be partners and jointly specifying high-performance cells for batteries. CATL are the ones that are going to design, develop and manufacture the cells in accordance with what Bosch needs, according to Green Car Congress. Well, the cells are specifically to be used in a kind of technology that we were talking about on yesterday's show. Yesterday was a tech special. If you're into the technology of EVs, check out our first Ask Avid. It's a company that provides the internal bits of EVs for other EV makers, and we were talking about 48-volt hybrids on that show yesterday. Highly recommend it if you haven't downloaded it yet. Well, this Bosch and CATL partnership will make 48-volt batteries, and CATL will build the batteries in Germany, in Erfurt. For Bosch, the alliance is another step on the path to market leadership in electromobility. Numerous global automakers already use Bosch's 48-volt technology, and their portfolio is extending now to encompass things like DC to DC converters and even other bits of electrical machines. Right, let's get on to our question of the week this week. It was a really good question. I really enjoyed it, and by far, this is not all of the responses, by the way. This was asking you about your favourite EV experience. What have you done over the years that's been or what would you like it to be if you're not yet an EV driver? There's a lot in here. Just to forewarn you, it'll be a longer episode, so here we go. John, who is Beardy McBeardface, says, my favourite EV experience has to be my first one back in 2017. I'd had a heart attack in 2014, says John, and I was recovering from a triple heart bypass in June. Unbeknownst to me, my best mate Steve had contacted Tesla Europe and explained what happened to me, including the depression that I was then suffering afterwards. Between them, they arranged for me to go for a test drive in a Model S P100D. Pretty much the day after I was allowed to drive again after major surgery, we headed to Dartford and went out. Most say their first drive in an EV is memorable. It was for me, but for so many reasons. It was also a bit of a catalyst that helped me on the road to recovery and out of depression. Thank you, Steve. Thank you, Tesla, says John. Nigel Mallet in Malta says, I've recently retired. My children, my partner surprised me with a track experience day of a Model S 90D. What a drive! The sheer acceleration of handling such a big car was mind-blowing. I cannot recommend enough to anyone who has this dream to fulfill, a time that will never be forgotten. If you want to mention it, says Nigel, it was supplied by great guys at Drift Limits at Hemel Hempstead in the UK. Marion Kemp says, it's hard to pinpoint a favourite moment, but one of them is driving up a very, very steep hill on a major street. We used to have a Pontiac Firefly, standard shift. It was a major pain in the neck to drive up this really steep hill. You got to get the revs just right or you'd stall it. We live on the Sunshine Coast of British Columbia, and it is a major hillside in town. Most of the streets have big hills. Now with our Leaf, we sail up any hill like a dream. Sam Hansard says, as a motorcyclist, I was convinced to test the Zero SRF motorcycle 2020 model. It was like being awakened after a years-long slumber. I knew about instant torque, but this is the first time I actually felt it. I've been on some very fast motorcycles, and the Zero is not the fastest, but nothing gets you from 35 miles an hour all the way through to triple digits as quickly as an electric motor. Now I know the secret. Electric vehicles are better. Not because they reduce pollution, which is wonderful, not because they're easier to maintain, which they are, but because they do what all gearheads and petrol heads want to do with every vehicle they own. They go faster in the most exciting way possible, and at a fraction of the fuel cost. I'm hooked. Marty Young says, I've had several great experiences in my Volt since buying it in January. My favourite thing is to give it to friends and family and co-workers and have their experience in an EV. I love hearing the wows, and this is so cool, they say. The thing that I'm most looking forward to is coming up next week. I'll be in Tennessee participating in my first EV drive and ride event in Knoxville. This event is part of the National Drive Electric Week. It happens in the US from September 14 through to 22nd. People can find an event near you if you go to driveelectricweek.org. That's driveelectricweek.org. Lars Hoffman says, it's hard to choose just one, but giving test rides and launches to unsuspecting strangers in my Performance Model 3 is a lot of fun. Mark Weston says, I would like to be able to either ride in or drive the new Aston Martin Rapide E. I've always liked Aston Martin, might be because I'm a James Bond fan, but I believe the Rapide E is making an appearance in the new film No Time to Die, and that's one experience he would love to have. Hey Mark, me too. A full electric Aston Martin? Count me in. Sparky says, I'm EV curious, but I do plan on going to National Drive Electric Week from the 14th to the 22nd in the US. They will have tons of shows around the country. Please let your listeners know there's probably one near them. He'll be taking his grandson, and it's 2 hours away. Phil McMillan says, last August I was browsing Facebook when I got presented with an advert from Jaguar for an Art of Performance experience focused on the I-Pace at the Millbrook Proving Ground, a car I've been interested in since 2017, at the ultimate venue to drive it. I jumped at it and booked a space and couldn't wait until the day. I wasn't disappointed. The day started with a presentation from Jaguar on the principles of what an EV is and their journey to designing the I-Pace. This was followed by a tour of the cutout car before a series of experiences, driving through cones, driving around the high-speed bowl, the hill route, and extreme speeds on the handling circuit, and he was passing high-performance cars along the way. Anthony Carroll says, in 2018, my buddy with a Tesla Model S 90D took me for a ride to experience an EV for the first time. The instant acceleration had me hooked and giggling like a kid on a roller coaster. Then he let me get behind the wheel, and that's when my world changed. I laughed so hard when I floored it that I gave myself an asthma attack. My 2015 fossil car has been a disappointment ever since, and every drop of gas I use only fuels my passion to make the switch to electric. I will get there someday. Alex Nelson says, my best experience with a 2018 long-range rear-wheel drive Model 3 was my first successful Navigate on Autopilot from Melbourne, Florida to St. Augustine in Florida in July this summer. The I-95 distance is about 129 miles and the car drove the full distance with Navigate on Autopilot. I set the car to auto lane change without confirmation. It drove, signalled and passed slower cars, merged on and off the highway, and handled the busy traffic merging from the I-4. A previous trip it did, all but the I-4 merging because of construction. The full trip from my home to my son's home is 178 miles, and the non-interstate highway were driven by autopilot with some input from me to signal lane changes, stop and turn at intersections, and engage and disengage autopilot as needed, says Alex. Bill, there's two more. Bill says, my best experience would be driving people at fully charged. I think it has been. He says would be. I think it has been. Driving people at fully charged live as part of the Tesla owners group. A massively positive and uplifting experience. Hopefully you can do it again next year. Bill, thank you for your service and everybody else who I was with the Zoe gang. You were with the Tesla gang. And the Tesla have done it in previous years as well, taking people from the car park, which is some distance, through to fully charged live. I did that for one of the days, and that was in my small 22 kilowatt hour Zoe, so I couldn't do it all day long. But it was a really positive experience, talking to people, meeting people, and surprisingly, so many people who didn't own EVs but were just interested in what's this all about then. It was fantastic, and I can't wait to do it next year. I imagine I'll be doing it next year in my 41 kilowatt hour Zoe, unless a second EV is added to the household between now and then. I can't say anymore. Let's talk about Stefan's comment. Stefan K says, my favourite EV experience happened last October, 2 weeks after my parents came to visit. I picked my parents up in my 2013 Volts. From the moment my dad got in the car, it was a week of questions about EVs. Now, I'm used to answering questions about my car, says Stefan, through my outreach programme with my local EV club, but my father is a retired electrical engineer, so some of the questions I had to look up. The moment was 2 weeks later when my mother informed me that my father had gotten on the wait list for the Mercedes-Benz EQC. What is so amazing is that my father was, until recently, a die-hard American muscle car owner and had Mustangs for the last 20 years. Look, I had so many more that I could read out, but I know that time is getting on. I appreciate your time. I respect your time as well, that you listen to this podcast, so I try and make every word count. And thank you very much to everyone that emailed me. Let's move on to our next question of the week, which is... it's kind of adjacent to asking about what's your favourite experience been so far. And we had a couple of people say that their first experience was their best one. The myev.com question of the week has been set by my friend Jill Noel on Twitter. And I saw her tweet this over the weekend, and so I've blatantly stolen it for question of the week. If you would like to respond to Jill's tweet, she is Jill_Noel, and if you would like to, I'm certainly going to be looking at all the answers on her tweet, and I've been retweeting that. I'll do it again so you can see it. This is what she asked on Twitter, and this is what I will ask of you. She was pondering on people's drivers for switching to electric vehicles. What was your light bulb moment? What was your light bulb moment? I'm trying really hard to think of mine because there's been so many over the years. I know that watching the Fully Charged channel with Robert Llewellyn was one of mine, and but I can't remember the first video that I saw. I remember the first Tesla Roadster, but I can't remember the exact moment. And so some people have a very clear memory. And some people, maybe like me, you're thinking, oh, where did this fascination all start? So, if you can remember the moment, if there was literally a light bulb going on moment, tell me yours. Please email me. The address is hello@evnewsdaily.com. Leave a comment on YouTube, leave a comment on Facebook. I am, like I say, getting better at checking all those different platforms. And let's thank our patrons. Thank you to 251. That is more than I mentioned yesterday because I've got some new names to mention on tomorrow's show. But without further ado, thank you Phil Roberts from Electric Future, Brad Crosby and Avid Technology, all of our premium partners of this show, and their contribution goes a huge way of allowing me to do this work. The partners of this show, David Allen, OEM Audio of New Zealand, and evpower.co.nz, if you are maybe a new Model 3 owner. You never know. In New Zealand, check out evpower.co.nz. Paul O'Connor, thank you, Paul. Blake Boland at EV Life Ireland, and if you are on Twitter, at EV Life Ireland. TryEV.com. And Gareth Hamer, thank you very much. And all my exec producers, Alan Robson, Alan Shedd, Alex Panahini, Alexander Frank, Anders Hove, Ashley Hill, Björn Fuchstack, Barry Peniston, Bob Muir from GingerComputers.com in Dundee, Brent Kingsford, Brian Thompson, Brian Weatherall, Cesar Trujillo, Charles Hall, Chris Hopkins, Colin Hennessy, Craig Coles, Craig Rogers, Damien Davis, Dan Fairs, Darren Bird, Darren Sant, and Yorkshire EVs, Dave Jewson, David Barkman, David Finch, David Partington, David Prescott, Derek Riley from theeffect.net, where he writes, Dirk Rutsatz and Don McAllister's Apple-based education. Do I call it education? Website? Screencastsonline.com. Tutorials, I should say, as well. Enrico Stefan Shillo, Frederick Rovick, Free Jewel, who is James, Gene Rubin, Jeff Lowe, George Clargo, Ian Griffiths, Jack Oakley, James Storr, Jason Fan, Jeff Urbies, Jerry Allison, Jill Smith, Jim Morris, John Bailey, John Lacey, John, who is Beardy McBeardface, John Nodell, and Juan Gonzalez. Ken Morris, Kevin Mayerson, Kyle Mayen, Lars Dallager, Lawrence D. Allen, Leisure Grigil and Luke Cully, Marcel Lohman, Marcel Ward, Marlin Shell, Martin Croft, Matt Piccioni, Matthew Ellis, Maz Shah, Mir Oppelstrup, Michael Pastroni, Michael Cuffin, Mike Rogers, Mike Winter, Nathan Gore Brown, Neil E. Roberts and Sussex EVs, Northern Explorers, Ohad Aston, Paul Ridings, Paul Seeger Smith, Paul Stevenson, Perry Simpkins, Pete Glass, Pete Gorton, Peter and D from Oxon EVs, Phil Mouchet, Pontus Klimbrad, Rajiv Narayan, Ralph Jensen, Rene Schneider and Rob Cooling, previous guest, appledriving.co.uk, Rob Hermans, Robin Tanner, Rupert Mitchell, Sabby the Cat. I love that one. Sarah McCann, Sari Kangasoja, Seiki Payne, Steve John, Stuart Hanna, The Limousine Line in Sydney, Plug Seekers EV YouTube channel, Tim Gutteridge, William Langhorne and Zach Hurst. There are 573 previous shows online for free. Get the old ones in the archive, get the new ones before anybody else by hitting subscribe. If you want to catch up on the socials, search EV News Daily. Have a wonderful rest of the weekend and a fantastic week, whatever this week holds in store for you. I will catch you soon. And remember, there is no such thing as a self-charging hybrid.